Tēnā tātou katoa, good evening. 5 people on board the Titan submarine have died in a catastrophic implosion. Debris from the sub has been found scattered near the wreck of the Titanic. The 5 on board would have died in milliseconds, and experts say their remains may never be found. 5 major pieces of debris from the Titan were found on the seafloor. They were a mid debris field found about 500 metres in front of the bow of the Titanic by an unmanned sub called the Odysseus 6K. And today, the US Navy revealed it had detected the implosion on the vessel around the time it lost contact. US correspondent Mitch McCann reports from the search base in Boston.
For 100 hours, it was a race against the clock. The Titan lost in the deepest, darkest depths of the ocean. Then today, the inevitable news from the search zone the world had dreaded.
The debris is consistent with a catastrophic implosion of the vessel.
An underwater robot spotted the first sign of debris 500 metres from the bow of the Titanic on the floor of the Atlantic Ocean.
The initial thing we found was the nose cone, which was outside of the pressure hull.
That was one of 5 major pieces of the submersible found amid a field of debris on the sandy sea floor.
The debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber.
Experts say that would have ended the lives of those on board in milliseconds.
You give an air balloon to a 5-year-old and you tell it to poke it. It goes in a fraction of a second. The same thing happens in reverse in the ocean.
On board were British billionaire Hamish Harding, Pakistani-British businessman Shahzada Dawood and his son Suleiman, researcher Paul-Henri Nargeolet and Titan owner, OceanGate's founder Stockton Rush. Their remains may never be found. In a statement, the company said these men were true explorers who shared a distinct spirit of adventure. We grieve the loss of life and joy they brought to everyone they knew. It's unknown when Titan imploded, but the US Navy revealed underwater sensors it monitors detected an anomaly consistent with an explosion on Sunday, around the time communication was lost with Titan. And the location of the debris is a further clue.
200 plus meters from the bow, and consistent with the location of last communication for an implosion in the water column.
With what's left of the Titan now located, the focus now shifts to what caused it to implode.
Can you describe what happens from here, sir, in the next days and weeks in terms of finding any more debris?
We're going to continue to investigate the site of the debris field. And then I know that there's also a lot of questions about how, why, and when did this happen.
Today's news brings to an end a search that involved planes, vessels and remote-operated vehicles from multiple countries. But questions will continue to be asked of OceanGate, the company that owned Titan, and whether or not it was safe enough to submerge to such depths.
The site of the Titanic still claiming lives, 111 years after that ill-fated voyage.
OK, Mitch, could OceanGate be in trouble for what's happened here?
Yeah, well, Michael, some experts believe that OceanGate could face a number of wrongful death lawsuits as a result of what's happened here on the Atlantic Ocean this week. And there's been numerous reports also this week that the company was warned as far back as 2018 that what they were doing in terms of taking people down to the shipwreck was viewed as risky behaviour. However, one thing that might prevent some legal action, Michael, is the waivers that people have had to sign before going down underwater. Now, one person who knows about this is a writer on the Simpsons TV show who went down in 2022, and he described the document, the waiver, as saying things like this: I will be subject to extreme pressure, and any failure of the vessel could result in severe injury or death. If I am injured, I may not receive immediate medical attention. So that's allegedly what is on some of these waivers that people had to sign before going underwater. But I think, Michael, there's probably going to be more news to come in the weeks and months ahead around possible legal action facing OceanGate.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Mitch McCann, our US correspondent, live in Boston. Thank you, Mitch.
Well, Titanic director James Cameron says he knew on Monday the Titan had imploded.
A deep-sea explorer himself, he says it was the only conclusion when he heard the communication and tracking systems had both gone dark. And he thinks he knows how it happened. Alice Wilkins has a story.
He's made 33 separate dives to the Titanic and travelled even deeper elsewhere, 10,000 metres underwater. Filmmaker James Cameron says he believes OceanGate's crew would have heard troubling sounds right before their death.
I actually believe they heard it with their ears, not through the sensor system in the last moments of their lives, and that's quite a horrifying prospect.
According to Cameron, that sound would have been the carbon fibre of the pressure chamber succumbing to the immense pressure of the deep sea water around it.
They call it delamination when water ingress starts to force the layers of the fibres apart, and theoretically you can hear it.
The Titan's owner, Stockton Rush, had been warned about his design, a carbon fibre cylinder with titanium domes on either end. To other deep-sea explorers, it looked like a death trap.
There are only 10 vehicles in the whole world that can go 4,000 meters or deeper, and all of them are certified, except the Titan.
Cameron, who travelled to the Titanic wreckage when making the film, has also designed his own submersibles. He said he's heard unconfirmed details about what happened to the Titan through the deep-sea exploration community.
They were a couple hundred meters above the seafloor, and they dropped their weights. Now, the only way for the ship to know that they had dropped their ascent weights, which would be an emergency abort, is if they had called that in.
The youngest on board the Titan was 19-year-old university student Suleiman Dawood, who had joined his businessman dad for a Father's Day journey. His aunt said her nephew felt terrified about the trip.
He had a sense that this was not okay, and he was not very comfortable about doing it.
The pilot, Paul-Henri Nargeolet, was nicknamed Mr. Titanic and was deeply respected among deep-sea explorers.
He's just consummate professional, and aside from that, just very humble individual too.
The parallels to the Titanic's own ill-fated journey aren't lost on James Cameron.
I think there's a great, almost surreal irony here, which is Titanic sank because the captain took it full steam into an ice field at night on a moonless night with very poor visibility, after he had been repeatedly warned by telegram, by Marconigram, by radio, during the day that that's what was ahead of him.
Another cruel irony, Stockton Rush's wife is the great-great-granddaughter of Isidore and Ida Strauss, who died when the Titanic sank. Alice Wilkins, Newshub.